Thank you, great teacher. So, Unsan asked me if I would be willing to give the Dharma talk today, and I had been working on a new modern day koan that is about the sixth or seventh in a series of modern day koans I've been working on. And I thought, great, this is an opportunity for me to share this teaching moment with you, my Sangha. So, in the gateless gateway, no gateway style of woman, this is called The Case of the Moth and the Buddha's Light. That's the background here, the Buddha's light. You'll see where it goes. A modern koan for our time. A new student entered the zendo for the first time. Outside, the world was loud and cluttered, but inside, the air was thick with the scent of sandalwood and the weight of centuries. His mind, however, was not still. It was a storm of why and how. He found a cushion in the back, sitting where he hoped he wouldn't be noticed, and tried to settle into the silence. Around him, the Sangha began to chant. The moktak struck its steady wooden heartbeat. The chukpi clapped, 3 sharp cracks that signaled the start of meditation. Feeling like an alien in a strange land, the student found he could not focus on his breath. His eyes drifted upward. There, circling a simple electric bulb above the Buddha statue, was a small moth. It was a frantic thing, beating its wings against the glass in a desperate attempt to reach a sun that didn't exist. Later, a robed monk stood to speak. He spoke of emptiness and suchness, words that sounded more like a foreign language than a spiritual path. But through the talk, and even during the serving of tea afterwards, the student didn't listen to the words. He watched the moth. He was fascinated by its devotion to its own destruction. He thought, the moth is the only thing in this room that makes sense to me. 1 week later, the student returned. He sat on the same cushion, bowed, and immediately looked up at the light. The moth was gone. The air around the bulb was still and empty. In that moment, the Zen master, who had been watching the student from the front of the room, leaned forward and asked, "Where did the moth go?" The student was silent. The master asked again, "And if it is gone now, was it ever truly there?" Minwi's verse. Wu Min always has a verse after his koan story. Minwi's verse. The frantic wings beat against the glass, a shadow dancing on the Dharma's face. The monk speaks of the void, while the moth performs it. When the guest returns to the empty bulb, the light is brighter for the absence. Minwi's commentary. This is my Dharma talk. In our early practice, we often mistake our distractions for our identity. We watch our thoughts circle the same lights. Our worries, our plans, our koans of life, just as the student watched the moth. We think, as long as I am watching this moth, I am here. We define ourselves by the shadows we cast against the light. Huineng, the sixth patriarch, wrote that there is no place for dust to collect. But to the beginner, the dust is all they see. The moth is the dust. The student believes the moth is obscuring the light or casting a shadow, just as we believe our thoughts obscure our Buddha nature. But the light, or the mirror, in Huineng's case, has no stand. It isn't a thing that can be dirtied or that allows a shadow to be cast. Ask yourselves, what is the moth that you brought into our Zoom meeting today? Is it a grievance? Is it a goal? A memory? A regret? Or maybe just an accomplishment? Notice how you cling to it to avoid the weight of silence. The student found the talk on emptiness to be unintelligible because he was looking for a concept to grasp. He wanted a map of the light, but he was busy staring at the shadow of the moth. Dogen reminds us, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. The student had not yet forgotten anything. He was busy adding questions, adding interpretations. We often treat the Dharma like a library of knowledge that needs to be collected. But the Dharma is actually a process of subtraction. It is the removal of the moth, not the study of its wings. When the student returned the next week to find the moth had gone, he encountered the great absence. This is the pivot point of our practice. The great absence is not a nothingness. It is the moment when the anchor of our distractions is pulled up. The student felt a sense of loss because the moth, his anchor, was gone. But in that loss, the light became clearer. Dongshan, the ninth century Chan master that founded the Caodong school, later known as the Soto school, he said this: just this is it. Just this is it. The empty bulb is just this. The Heart Sutra tells us form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The bulb is empty of the moth, yet full of light. The moth's disappearance is not a tragedy. It's the Dharma revealing itself through impermanence. If the moth were permanent, the light would forever be shadowed. Because the moth is impermanent, the light is allowed to be what it really is. Finally, we must look to the questioner. The master asked, was it ever truly there? This is the turning word. The student is not an observer of the moth. The student is the moth. His intellect, his why and how These are the frantic wing beats of a mind circling the light of the Buddha. The student is circling the Koan of life, looking for an entrance through the no-gate gateway, not realizing that his very circling is the only thing creating the shadow between him and the light. When we take our 4 great bodhisattva vows, we vow to save all sentient beings. But how can we save the moth? We save the moth by realizing there is no moth to save. We save the student by realizing there is no alien in a strange land. In a few moments, when we sit together again, let us look at the lights in our own minds. We don't need to shoo the moths away. We don't need to name them. We only need to realize that the light was never obscured. The moth came, the moth went. The student came, the student will go. The light remains. Dongshan calls this just this. Dogen calls it Buddha nature. Thich Nhat Hanh calls it a miracle of mindfulness. We simply call it practice.